Hi everyone, this is Abel. Welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be talking about all the books I'm planning to read during the month of October. The first book I'm going to read in October is World of Radiance, book 2 in the Stormlight Archives, and I'm chilling a bit because I already started reading it, but it's a chunky book, it's very long, and it will take me probably the rest of the month of September and a good part of the month of October, because I'm an extremely slow reader, especially when we're talking about books so long and so dense and so rich. So yeah, I started it. I will probably finish it in October, but there's a good chance it will drag until November. So by the way, World of Radiance. I'm pretty excited about this because everybody thinks it's the best book in the whole series. If I'm not mistaken, the fifth book, which should be coming out in 2024, will be the end of a first cycle in the Stormlight Archives. There should be 10 books in total. If you look at the ratings on Goodreads, you'll see that it is, to this day, I think, the best rated books on Goodreads, so I'm pretty sure it will be amazing. I have kind of a difficult relationship with the first book, with The Way of Kings. I respect the sheer scope of it. I kind of understand what Brandon Sanderson was trying to do with that book. But I had a difficult relationship with it because I couldn't connect with the characters. I couldn't stomach Shallan. I was mildly interested in the arc for Dalinar. I really didn't understand the point of view of Kaladin. But in the end, the last couple of chapters for every one of those point of view, they finally managed to convince me to follow up with the rest of the series. Because, you know, I'm an extremely character-focused and character-driven reader. So if I don't connect right away with the characters, it will be very difficult for me to read 1,100 pages of a story I'm not loving, because I'm not loving the characters. So I respect that book for the quality of the world building, because Roshar is a very weird, really interesting character, but I don't think it's what clicks with me. It was not particularly fascinating for me. Not once during the reading of that book I was thinking, gee, I would love to visit Roshar. I would love to visit that place and fight giant lobsters and meet all of those characters. I mean, it was interesting because of the way everything it's been planned, and all the way the book delivers on the informations. But I was not on board. Anyway, what drove me the most was the lore. So knowing that there is this rich history not only about the planet Roshar, but about the Cosmere. Now, if you don't know, Brandon Sanderson wrote different series and standalones of fantasy books which are connected with the basic lore, with the basic ancient religions, all the way those religions changed and are interpreted in the various planets. So discovering this, the ancient story of Roshar, and trying to figure out how that history is being interwoven with the history of all the other series, it's what made me think, yes, we should go on. Especially because actually my favorite series by Brandon Sanderson is the first Mistborn trilogy. So I came to The Way of King maybe with the wrong expectation. Think it will have been a little more closer to the Mistborn series, similar to the Mistborn series, but it is extremely different. Now I can tell you that, having been read just a few first pages, I think 70-75 pages of World of Radiance, I've been having a far better experience. I think the book is better paced than the first one. And given the fact that the first book had um, it did all the heavy lifting to explain the world and explain the dynamics between the characters, I'm enjoying it far more. So let's see how it goes. How does it ends? Everyone seems to think that this book is Brandon Sanderson masterpiece, and I have a theory about what people think about this Stormlight Archives, because when they say I love the Stormlight Archives, I think they say I love World of Radiance, actually. I don't think many people will tell you that Oathbringer or Rhythm of War, or maybe even The Way of Kings, are their favorite books on the Stormlight Archives. I think that people actually identify these Stormlight Archives to World of Radiance. But let's see. I will give you my ideas and my opinions when I finish to read the book. Reading World of Radiance will be a huge endeavor for me because I'm an extremely slow reader. I will tell you in the end of the day ad nauseam, because it's true, so you don't expect me to read 100 books every year. I'm not able to do it anymore because I'm an author myself and I have another regular job to pay the bills every month. So I have very small time for reading in spite of myself, and I have very low brain capacity to read extremely long book. So I try to shake things up. I'll read a palate cleanser and I'll go with lifelike. So as you see, I try to alternate science fiction and fantasy, indie books, and traditionally published books. This one is from Jay Kristoff. I've read the Illuminate trilogy that he wrote, he co-authored with Amy Kaufman, and I loved that series. I think it's much better that many people give it credit for, and it's much more mature that many people give it credit for, even if it has been written and targeted to young adult audiences, and Lifel1k3 is targeted to young adult audiences. I really enjoyed that trilogy, and I'm pretty sure I will enjoy Lifel1k3. I like the Jay Kristoff's writing style, even if I shied away from the Nevernight Chronicles and from Empire of the Vampire, because I'm not a huge fan of really dark, the really greedy stories. Not a huge fan of vampires, but yeah, it could be changing for the Nevernight Chronicles. I'm pretty sure I will never read Empire of the Vampire. But as I said, I love his writing style, and I love his humor, his attitude toward words. Jay Kristoff is a rock star. He's an incredible author. He's very smart, and even if many people say that Nevernight it's too much because the writing style is too dense, it has too many allegories, and it's actually difficult to read because of the footnotes, I don't think I'll have this problem with Lifelike. Not only because it's been targeted to a different target audience, but because it has a completely different setting. This is a post-apocalyptic, maybe a little bit cyberpunk setting. It is science fiction, of course, and it is about this girl called Ivy, Eve, let's call it Eve, call her Eve. She's a mechanic and she builds robots. And at the beginning of the story, she has lost her robotic centurion, or a fighter, gladiator. And then, and because of that, she's in a huge economical distress. She's lost a lot of money, and she's trying to figure out how to pay the bills and pay the medicines and the medication for her grandpa. And then one day she meets another robot, or a cyborg, and she gets involved with him, and she has to travel with him to help him find again his family. So of course, as you may have gathered and imagined by this short description, this is kind of a sci-fi retelling of Pinocchio. And I've been inspired to read this story because last week Lies of P, the video game, came out, and I can't wait to put my hand on that video game, not only because I'm fascinated by the original story, the original fable about Pinocchio, but because I really love when this kind of retelling is being set, is being put forward and translated in science fiction settings. So, really love the author. I especially his first series, mainstream series, because I know that Kristoff wrote a Japan-inspired series before becoming famous with the Illumine, Obsidio, and Gemina series. So I love his writing style, I love that trilogy, and I'm pretty sure this one will live up to my expectation. So that's the second book I'm going to read during the month of October. I will absolutely read another couple of volumes from the Espanse Dragon Tooth comic book series. Volume 1 and 2 were really good. They stick pretty close to the aesthetic, to the writing style and the pacing of the TV show. If you don't know, The Expanse is based on a series of books. It's a 9-book series plus a couple of novellas which have been collected in a single volume that you should read. You can read at the end of the series or follow an official reading list that tells you where those novellas are set on a chronological order between the show, between the books. But the comic, it's more akin to the show because the show adapted a few things and changed a few things about the books. So if you have read just the books, you will have, I think, a difficult time understanding what's going on in the comics. So I suggest you to take a look at the show before to go on the comics, because it fills a gap between what it is the last season of the show, season 6, which is not the ending of the book series. There is a time jump between book 6 and book 7, and maybe, hopefully, we will have one day a season 7, 8 and 9 of the TV show, or maybe a trilogy of movies, who knows. But for now, the show is over, and it has a somehow satisfying ending. After that, we have this comic book series, which is very good, and it places you in a position that tells you that there is a new status quo. The crew of the spaceship Rocinante has changed, and they have new objectives. They live a new life. They have a new role in the context of the solar system, which is the basic setting of the show. So it is very good. We have a new villain, and we have a new status quo, but all the characters are still the same amazing people we learn to love during the books and during the TV show. So I'm enjoying it greatly. It is amazing, and it hits that nostalgia and that feelings of loss I had when the TV show was over, because I still think it was one of the best pieces of television ever, and it is by far the best book to TV adaptation ever. No question asked. So it is amazing. You should read the books, you should take a look to the show, and after that, read the comics. The last book I'm going to read is actually a novella. It's The Ice by Ryan Cahill, and I know absolutely nothing about it because I shied away from any description, from synopsis, all the other reviews. I just saw that it has a extremely high rating on Goodreads. Anyone who has read the ARC, which actually I have the ARC for that book in my email, my inbox. Did I download it on my Kindle? I have to do it. But I try to stay away from every description because I don't want any spoilers. I love this series. I love Ryan Cahill writing style. This series actually started with the Of Blood and Fire. It is an high fantasy, epic fantasy story. It has high stakes, a really classic setting, but an extremely modern writing style. It is very comforting, very fascinating, and extremely gripping. It starts very small in book 1, and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger and more ambitious and more fascinating. The lore is rich, the characters are all very fascinating. So if you want to have a taste of what modern indie fantasy can be, just give it a try. Of course, you have that small group of characters at the beginning of the book. Boys and girls, they live in the countryside. They have a very small, very uninteresting life, but pretty soon it becomes something amazing because their life, they are shattered. All of their family and everything they think is true, everything they rely on, it gets splintered away. And from that on, the story grows and becomes this amazing picture of incredible fantasy stuff. You have all the classic stuff, but it's told in a very unique, very modern way. It is an extremely good pacing, and it becomes larger and larger in every book. So this is a novella. It should be a good palate cleanser between you chunker and book 4. It should be coming in 2024. Everyone is awaiting it like the second coming of Christ because every book is been surpassing the previous one. So I'm pretty sure this novella will be amazing, and the fourth book will be amazing too. So The Ice, Ryan Cahill. This is the last book I'm going to read in October. And that's it. That was my TBR for the month of October. If you liked this video, if you like science fiction and fantasy books, give this video a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one when I'll tell you about my September wrap-up, when we will be talking about the space opera September and a few of the books I've been reading from the SPSFC, the science fiction, self-published science fiction competition. Thank you for watching. Bye.